Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome back to another 4E Fridays video. So in one of the first videos in the series, if not the first, I had mentioned that I really loved the monster design in 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So today I kind of want to expand on that a little bit because I believe that the 4th edition monster manuals are some of the best monster books that I've ever owned or looked through. I absolutely adore these books. I'm not really here to talk about the reworking and rebalancing of like the calculations for hit points and stuff like that. That might be the subject for a different video, but today I just want to focus on the monster manuals for 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and specifically the monster manuals. The monster vaults might get covered in their own separate video, and that again might be part of the going over how creatures were changed to sort of rebalance them at higher levels. But today we're taking a look at the Monster Manual, Monster Manual 2, and the cleverly titled Monster Manual 3. So we're going to sort of go through, I'm not going to flip through every single one of these books, but we are going to flip through the first one here pretty much like all the way through. But the first thing I will say is I love the covers on these books. And as much as I really liked the 3rd edition book style where they look like actual like leather-bound tomes, I have to say that when they went back to just having like the artwork on the cover and sort of creating these dynamic scenes, I thought they were really cool. Like the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, recreating sort of the feel of the covers from the Moldvay Basic and Expert sets. I thought was really cool, with the adventurers in one, and then they're being spied on by, you know, in the 4E case, a dragon instead of a wizard. But I thought that was a really cool concept. With the Monster Manual, though, this is completely disconnected from those other two books. But you've got this really cool scene here with Orcus on the cover, and you've got some other undead there, and it looks like some sort of like temple or shrine type of thing to Orcus himself. You got the Rod of Orcus there, which looks really cool. And we're just going to go through and take a look at the book here. So the first thing that we're going to see as we get into the monsters here, it sort of goes over their stat blocks. And, you know, I've seen some videos where people talk about some OSR stuff, and they talk about like the complexity of 4th edition, stat blocks, and 3rd edition, 5th edition stat blocks. Truthfully, I don't think they're actually that bad. They can look like a lot, but when you realize that most of them are your standard actions, like they don't get to do them all in a round. So you just kind of choose the one that fits the situation best. And I kind of like creatures having like different options here. We got description or information on like the level roll, right? Their aura abilities, which some creatures have, some creatures don't, but auras are really cool, and we'll talk about that sort of in a moment here. How to read the powers and what they sort of mean. So, for example, there are some abilities that actually will deal damage on a miss. Same thing for player characters. They have some like their dailies will deal damage even on a miss. So let's take a look at the Aboleth here, just sort of get an idea for, like I said, the stat blocks look to be kind of overwhelming, but the top part here has your initiative, your hit points, your defenses, saving throw bonuses, speeds, if they have action points, their perception, sort of like the standard stuff that you would use sort of there for like initiative and sort of stuff that you might need to, if somebody's trying to be stealthy, for example, there's their perception, there's defenses there, so you know what the armor classes are, the target numbers are for attacks. And then we got the tentacle, we got the psychic slime, we have the dominate, and we have the enslaved there. But these are all standard abilities. So these are all things that you can choose one of them in a given round for them to do. So if they have a lot of enemies around them, for example, what they might want to do is the psychic slime, which does actually have a single use, but it recharges when they reach their bloodied hit point value. So if, like I said, there's a bunch of people around them, it is within 50 feet, you can make that attack, and then afterwards you might try to hit them with a tentacle or dominate an individual, and then they have their invisibility, which can only be used once per encounter, but it is a minor action, so they could do an attack and then go invisible at the end of that, or during their turn, but they can only do that once. So it's not really that complicated to look at. The bottom just has their alignment, their languages, different skills that they might have, and then their attributes. So as complicated as this can look, it's really not that bad. And I am of the belief that, and I'm guilty of this too, that you really should read the stat blocks thoroughly before before you use a creature. And just recently, I had a bit of a screw up there in a game that I ran where I used an ability on somebody that I shouldn't have been able to use it on. So that was kind of my bad, but these things happen, and they were fine. They survived everything perfectly fine. But yeah, we got the Aboleth there, and again, we also have different types, which is really cool, and we'll see this for a lot of different creatures here. And then we've got our abominations. We have the Atropal here, which I've always liked the Atropals. I kind of like the fact that they moved away from the sort of like fetal look of them, which some of them have had, but this just looks like an absolutely horrific creature there. We've got the Tarask, a level 30 campaign-ending potential villain there. And anything within, 40... So that would be, 200 feet? Anything within 200 feet that flies has their fly speed reduced to 5 feet and a maximum altitude of 20 feet. So that's pretty bad if you want to try to just fly outside of the creature's reach, because it can get you. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. We got our angels. Then we have our Azers, and again, we've got different stat blocks for them. We've got encounter groups, which we'll talk about again in just a little bit here. But it's really cool to see some of like the different types of creatures that they can have for a single like creature entry. So we got the Cave Bear, the Dire Bear together. We got the Battle Bears, which are actually kind of cool. Then we got our Behemoths, which are dinosaurs, and then we've got our Beholders. And again, I love the artwork in this book as well, because if you look at pretty much all the artwork, or most of the artwork here, it's not just like the creature's art against a white background. It's the creature involved in some sort of scene. So here you've got a couple of Beholders in the Underdark firing off their eye rays. And again, I really appreciate the fact that they made Beholders much more powerful and much more of a threat. Beholders have been my favorite monster ever since I got the 2nd edition AD&D Monstrous Manual and was looking at all the different bizarre types of Beholders there, and I just fell in love with the creature type. But having run several 3rd edition Beholders, I never run a Beholder in old school D&D, but I have had Beholder battles in 3rd edition and in 5th edition. I never got a party high enough for them to fight a Beholder in 5e, or 4e, I should say, unfortunately. But that's something that maybe I'll try to correct as sometime after I wrap up my Savage Tide campaign. My goal is to run a 4e game, and I might have them fight some sort of, it'd be like a lesser Beholder type. But again, what's really cool about them is when I was running them in 3rd edition, they were kind of like a glass cannon, in that they were either absolutely devastating to the party, or they were a complete and total pushover. I've had some fights where the Beholder drained everybody, like everybody was down to like near single-digit hit points, and maybe there was a fatality in the group, somebody that would have to be raised later on, or a new character would be brought in. And then I've had situations where the Beholder never even got a chance to go. Like, I rolled low for initiative, so the party just ganged up on it. And the biggest problem with the Beholder, especially in 3rd edition, and it's probably the same for some of the older ones, they could only aim so many eye rays in a 90-degree arc, and the tactics seemed to be for everybody to like group up in front of the Beholder, so that the Beholder had to choose between its anti-magic eye cone or its ability to hit the party with their eye rays. So if the Beholder had his eye open, and you couldn't just like open it right after using your eye rays. Like each round you had to choose whether the eye was open or closed. You couldn't keep switching it. Like even though you can blink several times within the span of 6 seconds, a Beholder couldn't do that. So you had situations where like if everybody's right in front of the Beholder, if it uses its anti-magic eye, then it can't do anything else other than like a really weak bite attack. Versus if they keep their eye closed, then if you've got a party of 4 characters, well, they can only aim so many eye rays in that 90-degree arc, so not everybody can be attacked. And so, anyway, there was just some issues that I kind of had with that. But with the Beholder here, they are much more capable of dealing with a larger group of opponents. And the main thing that they have here is they have Eyes of the Beholder, which is a 25-foot aura, so 25 feet radiating out from the Beholder in all directions. Any enemy that starts its turn in that area gets hit with a random eye ray. So this is where the eye rays are random. It's just in this aura ability. But when the beholder gets its actual turn, it can fire up to 2 eye rays, but they have to each target different individuals, which is fine. It's spreading out the damage, and I don't really have an issue with that. But if you're within 25 feet, which in a lot of situations you probably are going to be, then you're getting hit with a random eye ray just when you start your turn. So the beholder gets to use its abilities even on somebody else's turn. And again, it just makes them a bit more of a threat because you have to sort of be careful of that. Their central eye has also been changed, so it's no longer anti-magic. And instead, it simply dazes you. So you can essentially lose your next action in that combat or your next combat round. So it can sort of try to neutralize some of the more threatening characters, and then they could become targets for eye rays and stuff like that. So, I know it's a change to their abilities, and it's not like the anti-magic thing anymore, but I honestly didn't really use the anti-magic a lot because the players would tend to stay right in front of the beholder's central eye, and the beholder can't fire his eye rays into the anti-magic cone. So if it wants to use its abilities, it had to keep its eye closed anyway. So at least now you can use this, and it's a minor ability, so it can be done, in a combat round, and then still be able to fire the eye rays as well. So I think you get a minor action that you can do as well as a standard action. So yeah, it's got really cool stuff here. So we got the Searing Ray, which does radiant damage. We got the Withering Ray, which is necrotic damage. So we got both of those bases covered. The Sleep Ray, telekinesis. The Hold Ray, the Confusion Ray. And Confusion's pretty nasty because it actually, instead of it being a random effect, it literally turns the person that's hit by it against an ally. So that's pretty brutal. They got the Fear Ray, the Petrification Ray, which doesn't deal damage in this one, but you become slowed, and then you have to make a saving throw each round. And the saving throw in 4th edition is similar to a flat check in Pathfinder 2nd edition. So it's a straight d20 roll, which rarely has bonuses to it. Some things can give you bonuses on your saves, but generally speaking, you're just rolling a flat d20 roll, and you need to get a 10 or above. If you get a 1 through 9, then it's considered a failure, and the first failure has your speed, I think, reduced to 0. Yeah, you're immobilized instead of slowed, and then if you fail to save a second time, then you're petrified, and you'll need to have some sort of effect that can restore you from that. So we also have the Death Ray here, so it's plus 22 against a Fortitude defense, 1d8 plus 9 necrotic, and if the target is bloodied, it is dazed, so a save ends. So the effect just happens, and then they have to make a saving throw to end the effect, I think, on their turn. Let's see. The first failed save, the target is dazed and weakened, and on the second failed save, again, they die. So that's pretty rough there. With the Disintegrate Ray, it's 2d10 plus 9 damage, and then they suffer 2d10 ongoing damage, which is save ends. So they have to roll that d20 each round. They have to get a 10 or above. So even if they succeed, they're going to take the 2d10 or the 2d20 once, because I think you make that roll at the end of your turn. And then even after you do that, there's still an after effect. So even after the save, you still take an ongoing 2d6. So you have to save to end that again. When they reach a bloodied status, they can use their Eye Frenzy, which allows them to attack with 4 eye rays in a turn, and it recharges on a roll of a 6 on a d6. So again, they're much more capable of handling a group of enemies. They do have higher hit points, which I think the hit point calculations were changed in later versions of monster books, and they gave them other abilities instead. But again, I really love the way that they sort of handle this here. And we've got 2 different types of beholder in the monster manual here with the Eye of Flame, who has 3 different eye rays at their disposal. A Fire Ray, a Telekinesis Ray, and a Fear Ray, and their central eye can actually give you weakness against fire. So if they hit with their central eye attack, then if they hit you with their Fire Ray, you're going to take extra damage on top of what they roll. So I just really like what they did with beholders there. And then we got our different boars, the Dire Boar and the Thunder Fury Boar, a level 15 boar. That's pretty nasty. Then we got our Bodak and our Bone Claw. Love the Bone Claw. The Boule and the Cambion. We have the Chimera there. We have our Carrion Crawler. So we have the enormous Carrion Crawler. And then the standard one. So again, a little bit of variety there. A couple different types of chokers. We got some Trolls. Crocodiles, the Colossus. We got some Cyclops. Not to be confused with the comic hero Biclops. The Dark Ones, so the Dark Creepers and Dark Stalkers. We have two different types of Death Knights here, so it sort of gives you an idea of like different stat blocks. And I think they give you, I can't remember if they give you a template for it in the Open Grave or not. And then we got our demons here. So again, just sort of our standard variety there. We got the Vrox, Mesodemon, the Destrishons, which I don't think I've ever actually used. The Barbed Devil, so the devils here. I do have the Bearded Devil mini as well as the Ice Devil mini. We got a Pit Fiend, the War Devil, and then, of course, Devourers. So, again, I also really like Devourers as creatures. And, again, you've got different types. So, instead of just having a single stat block that's the same, that you have to customize yourself, they actually give you a bunch of different options to use there. Same thing for the Doppelganger and the Displacer Beast. They have the regular and the Pack Lord, although I think the 3.5 Monster Manual also had the Pack Lord in there as well. The Dracolich, which I want to say the Dracolich in 4th edition is more impactful than the Dracolich from 5th edition, which I don't think added anything to the stat block. I remember running a 5e Dracolich and being like really underwhelmed. But let's also talk about some of this artwork here. Again, like this artwork of the Black Dragon is one of my favorite Black Dragon art pieces that I've ever seen. And the Black Dragon is my favorite dragon design, especially this version of it here. I thought it was really, really cool. We've got the Blue Dragon there, kind of in the desert. And again, you get an idea of its environment. And this is what I like about the artwork, is that the artwork kind of tells a story, right? Like the Black Dragon is in a swamp. You can get that visually from looking at it. Whereas I think in the 3rd edition Monster Manual and like the 2nd edition AD&D books, it's just the dragon against a white background. So here you get a real feel for where they would be. So this is clearly a swamp. This is clearly sort of a desert or arid setting. This is clearly a forest, right? You've got sort of, now the red dragon's a little bit more iffy here, but it's like a sort of a mountainous area because you can see mountains in the background there. So you get, again, an idea of that. And then the white dragon's in an ice cave. So it sort of, again, gives you some really good ideas there. We've got different types of Dragonborn. And what I like about these is they're not all focused on low levels. You've got a Dragonborn for level 5, you got one for level 10, a 13, and a level 26 Dragonborn if you wanted to use some of those in higher level situations. You also have the Dragon Spawn, so we got the Blue Spawn Godslayer, which looks a lot cooler in this artwork than the one that they had in 3rd edition, which I have the mini for, whose face kind of looks like Barney the dinosaur. We got our Feldrakes here. Or I guess they're just called Drakes at this point. We got our Driders. And again, I really like the change to Driders in 4th edition D&D. This might be controversial, and because I know like a lot of old school individuals, the Drider was a punishment for failing the test of Lolth. But it's always been weird to me that turning into a Drider is considered a punishment or a curse, when the Drow revere spiders and Lolth often appears with a spider's lower body and a Drow's upper body, which makes her look like a Drider. So I like the fact that in 4th edition, a Drider is actually a revered figure in Drow society because they more closely embody that what they worship, right? The spiders that they revere, and they look more similar to the Spider Queen Lolth herself. So like you can tell that this individual had gained Lolth's favor because they were physically transformed. So I like that approach better than them being turned into something that looks like Lolth and that's somehow being bad. Like I guess that plays up to like the chaotic nature I suppose, of Drow society, but man, I never liked that. And even in one of my third edition games, that's not how I ran Driders. Like, I had a Drider that was actually leading a group of Drow, because I thought that them looking like a spider just made them make more sense that they would be revered, because, you know, they literally worship spiders. But anyway, and then we got some other Drow stat blocks here as well, some encounter groups, which is really cool to see. We got a couple of different types of dwarves, and this is a little bit more disappointing, I guess, because we only have two types of dwarves, and they're like level 4 and level 5. I kind of wish that they could have had, you know, maybe a few more stat blocks for it there. But, you know, they can't all be winners, right? Then we got our Freet, the Eidolons, the Eladrin, Elementals, and again, I kind of like some of the artwork here for the Elementals. We got the Ettercaps. We got some elves here. So again, they kind of took two lower level ones, which is a bit of a shame. I kind of, like I said, I wish they would have done like the Dragonborn thing. We got some Ettins, the Flame Skull, which I really, and they got a level 24 Flame Skull, which is really, really cool. The Fomorians, the Foul Spawn, the Nabasu Gargoyle. Interesting. Stone form. Okay. Because in one of my second edition modules that I have for Forgotten Realms has a Nabasu demon, I think it is, demon or devil. And they were a creature type that would evolve into a greater form if they devoured enough, like, souls, like levels of creature, character levels or whatever. So it's interesting to see, like, the term Nabasu there. We got some ghosts, we got some ghouls. Again, we got like a level 18 ghoul, we got a level 16 ghoul, level 5. So even the basic ghoul is a lot more frightening to use. And we got the abyssal ghoul there. That's the level 23 one. And again, you can't say the 4th edition is all like complex stat blocks when you look at that as a level 23 creature. It is a minion, right? So it's there's a lot less to it. But again, there's the regular abyssal ghoul there, and there's still not much to that. So, you know, again, the stat blocks aren't as bad as they kind of look when you first open the book, I'll say. And we got our giants. And again, one of the things I liked about the giants in 4th edition is they each have a titan. So they got like their regular version, and then the titan, which is like sort of the apex of their breed or their type. So you got the earth giant there, and you got the earth titan, which looks more like sort of almost a cross between an elemental and like a giant. Then we got the fire giant there, the fire giant forge caller, fire titan, storm giant, storm titan. So again, you can also see the difference in their sizes there, which is again kind of cool to see. We got some gibbering creatures, so the gibbering mouther, gibbering abomination, and the gibbering orb. So some different levels there. Some Githyanki, some Githzerai, a group of gnolls there, which is really cool. And then we got our gnomes there, which is fine. But then we got our goblins. And this is really cool because they have all the different types of goblins all together here. So the bugbear, the goblin, and the hobgoblin are all on one section here. And again, what's really cool about this is they have things like these encounter groups. And they don't all necessarily involve just the creatures from this entry, right? For example, you have this level 9 encounter, which has a Hobgoblin Hand of Bane, 12 Hobgoblin Warriors, which are minions, and then a Mace Tail Behemoth. So they give you like these really cool encounter blocks that you can use that are just pre-made and you're ready to go. And you can literally design an adventure around these, right? So if you wanted to have a group of like 5th or 6th level characters taking on this Goblin Warband or whatever, then you could look at like the level 5 encounters, right? You could use this level 6, a couple level 7s, and then the level 9 to cap it off. And all you got to do is come up with like a map for the encounters to take place in. So it's really, really cool that they have those, and I think it's great, especially for things like goblins. And I think we'll see it again with the orc stat block as well. That they have like a lot of really cool different level encounters that you can just pull right out of the book. Which is great because, again, you can just, if you want to design something kind of quick and on the go, then you could just do that. You just need a map to plop everything down on. The Halfling gets a few different stat blocks, which is kind of neat, including level 6 there, sort of their highest level. We got the Helmed Horrors and the Harpy. The homunculi, so the iron cobra, which I do have some minis of, which is pretty cool. The good old hooked horror, again, I love these things. A few different types of horses. We got the hounds, release the hounds. We have a few different human stat blocks as well, although they tend to be kind of like the lower level stuff there. A few different types of hydra. And then we got our kobolds here. So again, you've got all kinds of different encounter groups for the kobolds, including a level 6 encounter with 3 kobold dragon shields and a young black dragon. So again, some really cool stuff there. Kuatoa, the larva mage. We got some different liches here as well, including a lich minion. But we got the Eladrin lich, or the human wizard lich. The actual ritual to transform yourself into a lich. We got our lizard folk. Again, another creature that I absolutely adore. Some lycanthropes. Magma beasts. I do have the magma hurler. I have a couple minis of that. We've got a manticore. We got the Marat, which I have some of those as well. Minis for. And again, we got 2 different types. We got the Medusa, which again, we've got different types here as well. We got the Medusa Warrior, which is this guy over here, so it's a male. And then we got the Medusa Shroud of Zahir and the Medusa Archer. So we got, again, a few different varieties there. A couple different stat blocks for the Lithids. We got the Minotaur here, including a level 16 Minotaur. So again, this would be kind of like if you wanted to do the classic Labyrinth thing and have the Minotaur in the Labyrinth, like that would be a good one to kind of put in there. This is like the large size. The other ones are medium, so closer in line to the Dragonlance type of Minotaurs. And we got our mummies, our Nagas, our Nightwalker. We got different types of ogres here, and what's cool about the ogres is, again, they're a bit more of a threat here because like they're level 8 to start, as opposed to like a CR3, I think they were in 3rd edition, so they got a bit of an upgrade there. We got our Ogre Mage, or our Oni. And here we've got our orcs here, the gelatinous cubes, cool. But we got our orc here, and we got, again, our stat blocks that you can create an entire adventure from. But this is the main thing I want to talk about with these monster manuals. So, and I might stop the flip through here. But one of the things that I really liked about the 4E monster manuals is that they all came with a serious, like, epic threat, right? A campaign-ending villain that you can build an entire, entire campaign around. I guess I said the word a little too early in that sentence there. But they've got all this really great information. So for this one, they've got Orcus here. So we got the cover art reproduced. You get some lore for it here. You get the Orcus stat blocks. But you also get other things here. Like you get the aspect of Orcus. You get one of his exarchs there, so one of his most powerful minions. You get the Death Priest there. So you get a few different types of stat blocks. Along with their sort of their cultists and stuff. So you get all kinds of things. You get the encounter groups here, but you get lots and lots of information that you can use to create this cult to Orcus in your campaign. That can be revealed as you reach the epic tier, or sort of get near the end of the Paragon tier of adventuring, where suddenly it's like, okay, this could be an entire campaign, right? Like they got level 9 encounter here. So that could be something you could throw in at the end of their heroic tier of adventuring, levels 1 through 10. And then later on, they start to encounter, more things that lead them back towards this cult. And I think that's really, really cool that they have that there. And we just got a few other creatures that we'll go through kind of a little bit quicker here. We got the salamanders, scorpions. We got some different skeleton types, which is actually really cool. I think they bring back the blazing skeleton. So there was in my 2nd edition Monstrous Manual, there was the giant skeleton, which had, I think, multiple arms, and there was a blazing skeleton, and they had the artwork flipped for them. So they had the wrong artwork for each one. But yeah, the blazing skeleton being able to throw like fireballs was kind of brutal, actually. So it's cool to see them come back. Skull Lord is another one of my favorite creatures from the 4E era. We got our slads there as well, including the black slad. Do they have the mud slad in here? Hold on. I just gotta see if they got the mud. I don't think they have the mud slad. No, they don't have the mud slad. That's fine. That's fine. Some snakes. Sorrowsworn. Not gonna look at the spiders. The sturge there looks really, really cool. the treant, the tiefling, a couple stat blocks for the tiefling. We got the troglodytes, which I actually like the change in the troglodyte art as well. We got some trolls, the Umber Hulk, the unicorn, the vampire, which again gives you some vampire spawn. And we got Warforged right there in the monster manual, so really cool to see Eberron being represented right away. We got wights, which again, I also like the fact there's all kinds of different types of like wights and ghouls, because they're like intelligent undead, but they usually get presented in the monster books as sort of like feral beasts. So I kind of like the fact that you get to see a bit of a different side of them here again in this sort of artwork that they've got. And the Wraith, the Yuan-ti, the Wyvern. I actually think the Wyvern looks really cool there. They got the Yuan-ti Anathema. And then, of course, we've got some calls. So a lot of stuff for the Yuan-ti there as well, actually. And a whole bunch of different zombies before we get into the racial traits. So what's also cool about these monster manuals is they add new player character races to the game. So they got the Bugbear, Doppelganger, which is cool to see, the Drow, Githyanki, Githzerai, the Gnoll, the Gnome, right? All these different ones, the Warforged, the Shifter, the Shatterkai, the Orc, right? And what's great about these is that unlike 3rd edition, there's no level adjustments, so they're just balanced to work so that you can play them at level 1 and you're not like way behind in terms of your character's abilities. And we just have like glossary of terms there. So again, really, really cool monster manuals, but I love the addition of the campaign threats. But we'll take a quick look here at the Monster Manual 2. And the main things that I want to focus on here are going to once again be the fact that this book also has, when we get to it here, just bear with me, there's the Barghest, the bear. They have more beholders! So they got the Goth, the Eye of Frost, the Eye of Chaos. So that's really cool to see. And then they also have different types of dragons. So the metallic dragons were in the first monster manual. The chromatic dragons were in the first monster manual. The metallic dragons are here, and they actually have some different types. They're like the adamantine dragon. So there's some that are kind of missing from like the standard ones, but they introduced new types, which is really, really cool. We got the Duergar. Whoops, we may have gone too far. Actually, I know we went too far. Because the main threat in this one is actually... Well, where is he? Hold on. Yeah, here we go. Pretty early on in the book, but the main threat in this one is Demogorgon. So I'm actually running the Savage Tide campaign right now, and Demogorgon is the main threat from that one as well. So again, you got the campaign ending threat there, some really cool artwork of Demogorgon. You've got the aspect of Demogorgon. What's really cool here is that they have Dagon. So Dagon is sort of... I guess he was kind of like his advisor type of thing. Like he was kind of in the ear of Demogorgon to sort of manipulate him into doing things. So it's cool that Dagon is included here as well, because he was, I guess, the last major surviving... I think he was an Obrith, which was like the before the demons. That was sort of like the type that ruled the Abyss. So it's really cool to see... like Dagon there. And of course we've got some Exarchs and some high-level, threats and some lower-level creatures that are all worshippers of Demogorgon. So, again, really, really cool stuff there. And then, in the Monster Manual 3, which is actually the first 4th edition Monster Manual I was able to find, the main threat is, we'll get to her in a moment, but we also have, once again, some more beholders. We got the beholder spawn, which are little minions, so they're like the baby beholders. We got the Eye of Shadow. We got the ghost beholder there as well. So again, really, really cool stuff. But the main threat in this book is going to be Lolth. And again, some really cool artwork here. So they have like the Lolth as she appears in her drow form. And then on the cover, they have her sort of hybrid form there. So you've got Lolth, and then you've got, I think this is her spider form of the Spider Queen. And then she's got sort of like her, I think this is like her standard, oh no, this is her drow form, this is her spider form. So we got the two different types there, the two different stat blocks for depending on which form she's in. Her aspect, we've got Eclavdra. I know I'm saying that wrong, but it's a made-up fantasy name. Don't take it too seriously. But I think she was in the Spider Queen, like the Vault of the Drow or something like that. She was in those like Descent into the Earth, like those D series modules, I think, from back in the day. So it's cool that she's in here as well. So you don't get as many stat blocks here, but we do have a lot of Drow stat blocks from the earlier books as well. But again, we've got like two different types of Lolth stat blocks. We've got one of her most powerful servants on the material plane, and we got her aspect there. So again, it's just really cool to see that each of these monster manuals includes something that you can literally design an entire campaign around and just be able to use like that book or like the couple of monster manual books. So I really like the way that they approach these. I like the way that the monsters are designed. Again, I looked at the Beholder as kind of a specific thing there, where you took something that was kind of all offense and no defense in like 3rd edition and actually made it a lot more well-rounded in 4th, so it's able to more capably handle a large group of enemies. And again, I love the artwork. The inclusion of these epic level threats with some of their servants and minions is really cool as well. The encounter blocks that they have written up for pretty much all of the monster entries in here is great as well. But again, we got these high level, these major campaign ending villains here that you could use in your games. Like those stat blocks become, or those stat encounter setups become even more useful to you. So I just think that 4th edition really nailed the formula for the Monster Manual. Now, I will say, and I will give credit where credit is due, the Monster Manual 4 from 3rd edition did something very similar in that they took a lot of creatures that, had only a single stat block in the original Monster Manual and needed to be sort of modified and have a lot of variety to be able to just pick up and, pull out of the book and use. So things like the goblins and the gnolls and stuff like that did receive a larger number of stat blocks in that book, which was great. But I think that, with 4th edition, it became the standard from the beginning rather than it being something that they figured out, like 4 years in to their product line, like they did with 3rd edition. So some of my favorite monster books of all time sitting right here in front of you. Let me know in the comments below, what are your favorite monsters from the 4th edition monster manual, or what are some of your favorite monsters in D&D period? Were you somebody like me who picked up and looked at a book and saw the artwork for a creature and instantly fell in love with it, and it's like, okay, this is my favorite enemy, this is my favorite monster of all time now, like I did with the Beholder? Have you used any of the major threats in these books to build a 4E campaign around? And if so, how did those go for you? Anyway, thank you all so very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next episode of 4E Fridays. Until then, take care.